Welcome back everyone to Vintage Digital Watches. So here we are with the Casio C-801 rebuild video or restore video. But before we get started with the work, I want to get a matter out of the way. And that is, some of you have asked me to do a Q&A, questions and answers. So you ask the questions and I'll do a video where I compile all the answers for you. Now, these are not going to be questions like, I have a watch, this is the model, how do I fix it, or how do I fix that on the watch. They are questions regarding my collection, or if you have questions about me, or whatever that is not how to fix my watch. So leave the questions in the comments below or send them at vintagedigitalwatches@gmail.com, and in the next video I will try to answer those questions. We'll do a quick Q&A video. Okay, so in today's video what I want to show you is how I'm going to rebuild this Casio C-801 using different parts. Now yes, I do have this Casio C-701 here. It has a number of faults, so I'm going to use some parts and donate them from this watch to this watch. So let's do a quick walkthrough of what parts we have, what are we going to keep, what are we going to put in my calculator watch parts bins. So I want to restore this C-801 and it has, I've stripped it down up until a certain point. So we are going to use the crystal because it's in good condition. We are going to use the back because that's important. It has the serial number and it's a C-801 stamped back. We are going to use this keyboard inlay, which is in pretty good condition. It's not new. We are going to use this keyboard. This keyboard is actually brand new. At one point, a friend sent me over a bunch of these keyboards. I have two other left, which I'm probably going to use in other watches, but this is one of them. So it's an original Casio C-701 or C-801 keyboard. This type of keyboard goes only in these watches. If you have any other calc watches from Casio, they will not work. Okay, and we are going to use from this watch the module and the buttons on the sides, and we are also going to use the case, and of course we are going to take everything apart from it. We are going to take the button inlays, the buttons themselves on the front, the crystal. So we are only going to keep the module inside and the actual body, metal body of the watch. And that is the point of this video, for you to see a complete strip down of a Casio C-701 or C-801 while doing something productive, and that is ending up with a nice condition C-801, because this is the watch I want to restore. Now this model has a number of issues. It does cycle through the functions fine. The microlight isn't working, but this button doesn't press, so I'm assuming it's an easy fix. And when in calculator mode, not all the buttons are working. So 9 is working and 8, you see 5, 4. So a few of the buttons aren't working. And my assumption is that the keyboard membrane, the cardboard on the back that makes the contacts, is worn off. But we'll see. Okay, so we'll start off by removing what we need from this watch and then removing what we need from this watch. So we want to keep this crystal, and what we have to do is to remove the crystal from the body of this watch. And if you can see in between the glass and the actual metal body of the watch, we have a gasket. So that's a plastic gasket, and that is how this is held in place. The crystal is friction fit. So what we have to do is knock it out from this side, being careful not to crack it or damage any of the print. We will need a case holder, we'll need a hammer, we'll need something to punch out the crystal with, and you can use anything that is not hard, so something made of plastic. In this case, this is the body of a permanent marker, and that's what I'm going to use. So first of all, we are going to set this case in the holder, but because the crystal will fall out on the other side, it may hit one of these metallic parts of the holder. So we'll use plenty of paper to pad that place up. Make sure it doesn't crack. Okay, so we have that part protected. So you can see, because of the shape of this case holder, there is nothing pressing against the crystal, which is what we need. Next, we want to protect the LCD itself. So for that, we are going to use again some paper, just to make sure we're not being too abusive on it. And this will sit right there. What we want to do is punch the glass out, not from the middle, from the side, because if we punch it out from the side, it's going to come out very easily, because if we lift it up a bit, I can take the watch out and just remove it. If we punch in the middle, we risk cracking it. Okay, so we'll put this as protection. What you don't want to do here is not place this plastic punch here and just start hammering away. What you want to do is apply pressure, but not pressure from as hard as you can. You have to hold it such that there is a bit of distance between your fingers and the case, because when it's going to get loose, your hand will drop, and you don't want to be holding it up from here, because the drop will be more severe and you may risk cracking it. So just lift your hand until you have just about 5 millimeters there, and just keep pressed and do small taps. So we're not hitting it, we're keeping it pressed with the hand, and just do small taps like this. And yep, something happened. Yes, and you can see the glass is now easily pressable from the other side. And we haven't caused any damage to it. And now this gasket is removable. We want to easily take it away. Make sure it doesn't break, because we're going to have to reuse it again. And there we go. So we have those parts collected. Okay. Now we have to strip out this watch. Okay, now as I said, we are going to harvest from this watch the case. The C-701 and C-801 are so identical. The only thing that is different is their color schemes, meaning that you have sometimes bluish color here and a bluish color here. And there are C-701s with a grayish color here and a bluish color here, or dark, or any other mixes. Other than that, they are identical. The modules are identical, the buttons on the side are identical, everything. Okay, so we are going to harvest from this the case. So we're going to need to remove the crystal, we're going to remove the keyboard and the inlay. We are also going to be removing the buttons, because we want to add new gaskets to it. Now the keyboard is free to fall out, but it won't fall out that easy. We have to push it, and the way we are going to push it is using something to push with on the edge of these holes. So you need something that can fit inside this hole of the body of the watch, but not fit inside of the screws hole. So this will need to fit in there, and as you can see, it does fit in the hole of the body of the watch, but it doesn't fit inside the screw. Okay, so we are going to punch the keyboard out in the similar way that we've punched out the LCD screen, with small taps. And I think we've got it. Yes, you can see it is lifted up. Now we're going to do a small push here. Yes, and it fell out. Okay. So we will want to keep some of the assembly of the keyboard. We're not going to keep the buttons because, as I said, we do have that already. And we also want to keep this. You can see in how many parts the keyboard is disassembled. And the inlay of the keyboard is actually stuck on top of this metallic piece here. And what you do is you take a craft knife and you run it in between them. Being very careful not to bend it. So we'll need to scrape up this dirt, but for now we'll just lay it here. So I've shown this before, but I'm going to do it again. The way I remove the C-clips or retainer clips on the buttons of the watch is using 2 screwdrivers, and basically I'm pressing on each side of them. And here's a neat trick. Because you know those are going to fly around, use some kitchen wrapping foil, and that way you can work and see through the foil under the microscope, and if they fly away, they will fly away somewhere in the case of the watch. Okay, now we've got the case stripped, and I am going to give it a good clean and a light polish. We do have this dent here that there's nothing I can do about that, so we'll have to live with it. Okay, so that is the case polished, and to be honest, there wasn't much to do, because it was fairly clean. It has some of my prints right now on it, but that gives me a little bit more of satisfaction when I assemble the watch. Okay, so now that we got the case out of the way, it's time to look at the module. And the first thing I want to validate is what's the issue with some of the keys, because they aren't working. And you can see there is no sign of corrosion visible, at least with the plastic casing on the module. But there is one small test that we can do to validate that the keyboard still had the carbon on its tips. So my assumption was that some of the keys weren't working with the old keyboard because the carbon on the tips wore off. And now, yes, I can fit this module into this case and check that out. But if you don't have a new keyboard to do that, we are going to make out of tin foil, because this is more, you can get a better conductive surface this way than using a screwdriver. So that tip is what we are going to put on in those notches to validate that this indeed is working. 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8. And I would say that this module is working fine, and we had an issue with the former keyboard. I don't think I still have it around because I cleaned everything up here. So that keyboard didn't have a proper conductive surface on the pads. But just for the sake of this repair, I'm going to show you what you can do if you have a keyboard like that, how you can actually repair it. And that is by using something called Keypad Fix. And the name Keypad Fix is just a generic name. You can find this in different packaging from different manufacturers. It's basically liquid carbon. That's how it looks. And you can apply this to the tips of the keys. So right here it would have carbon that would bridge that connection. But in the case of the former keyboard, apparently that wore off. It's something normal for that to happen. And this is sold usually to fix remote controls, because those are intensive use electronics. So the carbon tends to wear off, and this is a way you can fix that. So before applying it, make sure that the button you're applying it has been cleaned with alcohol, and then just on the tip of your toothpick you want to apply just a tiny bit until it makes like a small bubble. And that's how we want it to look. It will have a slight domed shape, but as it dries out, it will become a little bit flatter. So my recommendation is to leave that to dry for 24 hours. I'm sure you could leave it less, but just for the sake of it not disintegrating or peeling off when you're pressing on it, just leave it until the other day, and you will be safe to use it in a watch. So here we are about 5 minutes later, and you can already see that the dome has receded, and we are getting more to a flatter surface, which is what we want. I do recommend, however, that before trying this, always look at the circuitry and at the traces to make sure that those aren't damaged. If that is the case, then doing this will only add an additional job you have to do that won't be successful. So first do the test like I showed you with the tin foil to make sure that all your traces are indeed working. Okay, and what we want to do further with the module, because we're here with it opened, we want to strip it down and do a short inspection and a quick clean. And I think somebody else has been in this module before, because this part I have never seen it in one of these watches before, and I fairly am a good connoisseur of the 133 module. And there we have the module out, and yeah, as you can see, this is a pretty good condition model. This is how you want a module to look. So now we'll give it a quick clean with some isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip. Make sure it's clean. Okay, so before I don't forget, you know that the microlight wasn't working? Well, somebody put this piece of plastic over the microlight button, which prevented it from working. I don't know why they did that. Maybe they thought it would be a power-saving feature. But anyway, I just removed this. This is not part of this module. It was put in there and it immediately worked. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, because I might forget to mention it. Okay, so there is nothing left to do for this watch than just mate the case with the module, and we have our fresh keypad inside. This is not the one that we've worked on because I wanted a new keypad. So that has been the rebuild for this nice calculator, Casio C-801. Don't forget about the questions for the Q&A that I want to do. Leave them in the comments below or send them to vintagedigitalwatches@gmail.com. If I have enough questions, I will do a video specifically for that. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you enjoyed it. And yeah, I try to release as often as I can digital watch related videos, much like the one you see today, also reviews and collection walkthroughs and many other things related to digital watches. Thanks for watching. Bye.